Other interesting business news, you have American Airlines vote to strike. Oh, yet another bankruptcy. I could see the bankruptcy looming yet again. Now, apparently over 99% of the union members voted that they agree to walk out if American Airlines doesn't increase their pay. Because of course, I mean, why work? I always tell people, when it comes to unions, I don't like the idea of being forced or coerced to join a union. And depending on the situations, you are forced to join. Even if your skill set is infinitely better than everyone else, you're just going to get paid because tenure. Which, as an American, I disdain. I think that's unfair. Quite literally the definition of unfair. But back to the story, it looks like American flight attendants are currently guaranteed a base salary of $27,300, which actually seems too high. For a flight attendant? That's pretty darn good. Plus free flights wherever you want. And again, that's where it starts. And that's a base. So it's also help. Also getting health insurance, getting benefits on top of that, presumably. And then, of course, it sounds like there might be a bonus program. And they claim they haven't received raises since 2019. Well, let's see. What's been terrible since 2019? Oh, yeah, the economy. The airlines almost went belly up. Now, this is hilarious because, of course, with the union, they're going to give you one side to make the company look as evil as possible, even though it's usually the unions that kneecap the companies. Perhaps an apt metaphor for the mob. Now, this is a quote from the APFA president, Julie Hendrick. All the acronyms got to sound smart. She says, quote, we're fighting corporate greed. And she made a reference that the company made $1.3 billion in the second quarter profit. That sounds almost too good to be true. Well, what's the overall company look like for their cost structure after, remember, when the government shut down the economy, the airline industries basically nearly went bankrupt and they got bailed out. Now, it looks like this is from the American Airlines website, from their fiscal statements. And they say American generated an over operating cash flow and a free cash flow of nearly $1.8 billion and $1.2 billion, respectively, in the second quarter. The company reduced its total debt by $387 million in the quarter. Strengthening the balance sheet continues to be a top priority, and American is nearly 2/3 of the way of its goal of reducing its debt by $15 billion by the end of 2025. As of June 30, 2023, American has reduced its total debt by approximately $9.4 billion from its peak levels of mid-2021. So, again, they're billions in debt. I mean, I don't know, granted, they didn't mention the interest rate, so there's a lot of variables we're not privy to in this specific summary, but you have to pay that back. So I can't help but think, like, it seems that in every instance, the union, kind of like a guy at a buffet, they see the shiny money right there, but they're not thinking about the long term. Kind of like the United Auto Workers in the 1950s. 1950s, GM, the U.S. was basically the only market that could build cars at that moment, thanks partially because of the last war. And GM, Ford, and Chrysler did great. They were basically the only game in town. The unions they were making a lot of money, so the unions asked for huge ask. By the 1970s, they basically bankrupt the companies. And the Japanese automotive companies, who do not have the handicap of being unionized, and they also have a culture of constantly improving the product, well, they came and kicked their ass. And now the most reliable cars on the road are going to be Toyota. They're going to be Honda. Those cars last a quarter of a century and 1 million miles. There's a reason I have a Honda Civic with a stick shift, as every car should have. But again, I think you're going to see the same thing with the airline industry. Also, look at any airline documentary. There are two reasons every time these companies go bankrupt. It's always the same two. One is the fuel cost, which, again, the United States is not smart enough to actually become energy independent and actually drill and use the natural resources at our own land. We'd rather pay countries that hate us, like Venezuela, to get oil, and rely on other countries that hate us and many of them are evil. We'd rather spend a lot of money to buy their oil than use our own, which idiotic, to say the least. The other reason, unions. Watch any airline documentary. Those are the top two reasons why they fail. And it makes sense. And I can't help but think, is this going to lead to them going bankrupt? When is this debt due? That's literally billions of dollars in debt. Also, when are they going to fix? A lot of these airline industries are struggling from their infrastructure in terms of they're having a lot of missed flights, flight cancellations. I've had a lot of tech issues. That's not going to be a cheap thing to fix. So it'll be interesting to see, as the airline industry is moderately competitive, which ones are going to stay and which ones are going to be just basically overcharged and they're just going to be done, fiscally speaking. The cost will explode so much. The ticket prices will explode exponentially. Eventually everyone's just going to fly Spirit and take that 8% chance you're going to get stabbed. Warning, that's not a real statistic. Just kind of a gut feeling when you get stabbed in the gut. That is a joke. But for now, I digress. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in. Again, it's a crazy goal. We're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of September. Greatly appreciate you taking the time to click that button. Also, don't forget to take the time to like and comment. The feedback is greatly appreciated, especially if it's critical, as we try to make the show better and better. Also, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.